Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. I want to thank Ray Rickman, as he usually does, for coming in Fridays to give his big view here in studio. And speaking of usually coming by, GoLocal columnist Bob Whitcomb, thank you for coming in today. We were just chatting. He did not stay up to watch the end of the Red Sox game last night.
No, I did not. My psychiatrist advised against it.
Whereas I did, I'm on my third cup of coffee. It's all good. Let's talk national politics before we go to local. Of course, what's been dominating this week is a situation that happened in Turkey at the Saudi embassy, and the president's reaction to this has to do with journalist
terrible.
Khashoggi.
See, I think the main reason for this is Kushner and the Trump family have a lot of business interest over the years. I think they've gotten money from the Saudis, they've lent money, and there are a lot of connections there between Trump and Saudi Arabia. I think that's some of it. The other thing is that Trump became great pals with Prince Salman, the Crown Prince, who appears to have ordered this torture and murder. And it's, to say the least, an awkward situation for the president. Even though, I don't know, my theory is probably most people don't care. The president likes dictators, and the more bloodthirsty, the better. So,
do you think there'll be any consequences? I mean, I think one of the things that sort of shocked folks, or maybe didn't shock folks,
maybe not. We're beyond shock these days.
Shock and awe, was the president taking the wait-and-see approach in light of overwhelming evidence as to what had transpired.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand wait and see, but the information came across. As you know, there was internal information recordings of Mr. Khashoggi being tortured. Later on, apparently he was dismembered and taken out of the building in suitcases and stuff. And I think, again, what's going on is the president has these connections with Saudi Arabia, as with other dictatorships, and so he's trying to protect them and protect himself in the process.
Do you think we'll see any reaction, especially at the congressional level? Now, I talked with Jennifer Lawless earlier this week, and she mentioned, if even if the president doesn't take action, is this worthy of other nations taking action against?
Try to change a treaty. My feeling politically, I don't think most people care. Sadly, I don't think most Americans care very much, about human rights. Frankly, outside the U.S., I'm beginning to wonder if they care about them within the U.S. They care about the economy, obviously, and they react to certain personalities. They care about whether they like the look of somebody, the way he or she speaks. It's all this sort of, frankly, moronic response to individuals' personalities and presentations. The economy, which is still doing well, but we're beginning to see some danger signs in the stock market and elsewhere, in interest rates and so on. I think they're concerned about that, but no, I think most Americans really don't give a damn about human rights overseas, and not much about them in the U.S., frankly.
And speaking of things that Americans care about, let's talk a little bit about Elizabeth Warren's
Yes, right, the
this week.
DNA thing, which is apparently sort of a pushback about that. I can understand why she did it, because the president keeps taunting her about it. And, the Cherokee Nation is outraged that she was kind of making this a campaign matter. Well, of course, Trump originally made it a campaign matter, calling her a fraud. I understand also the scientists, the DNA experts, are arguing about what percentage of Indian blood she has, and it's actually very entertaining sort of scientific dispute about, is it 1/100th or 1/1000th or whatever. It does appear, is this guy at Stanford who did this is a respectable scientist. It does appear she's had some little bit of Indian blood, Cherokee blood, but probably to her surprise, the Native Americans, especially the Cherokee Nation, doesn't seem to be very happy about this.
Well,
we're bringing it up as a campaign issue.
Well, as a campaign issue, it is quite interesting because Jennifer Lawless raised a good point. Actually, Jen Bendery raised the same point when
I know her. Yeah. You didn't believe a word she said, though.
It was great to have her, Jen Bendery, HuffPost senior political writer and related to Bob Whitcomb.
Yes,
Both of them raised the point that, as much as folks want to speculate who might be in the Democratic ticket in 2020, we still have the midterm to get through, see how the chips fall, that it's completely premature, just plays into that sort of the media hype of trying to just get
Well,
folks interested. But
yeah.
the question was, what was the upside of Elizabeth Warren saying it now? It's, the focus is squarely on the midterms.
You know what I would have done with her? I certainly would have released that information, but waited off to the midterm. She's going to win the midterm, so she doesn't have a problem there. And then, done it in a slightly less, intense setting, and then gone on from there. I don't think she's going to be the nominee. I think she comes across as too strident. The trouble is the Democrats need somebody from outer space. They need like Wendell Willkie in 1940 to run a strong race against FDR, or Dwight D. Eisenhower. At this point, before the 1952 Republican convention, everybody thought Bob Taft was going to be the nominee, and then they persuaded General Eisenhower to run, and of course changed everything.
Well, don't forget too, in 14,
Yeah.
Jeb Bush was the purported
Right,
frontrunner
yeah,
on the
Jeb
Republican
Bush,
side.
right, yeah, and of course 1948 there was President Tom Dewey. So you never know. I think the Democrats desperately need somebody with a great manner, great presentation, charm, charisma, who's run something. It could be a company, it could be a state. There's a very impressive governor of Colorado, I think, may run for president, called Hickenlooper, but he's got a problem with his name.
Do you really think the
Yeah.
name would be that much of a hurdle to overcome?
Yes. I think that's the way the world is.
Well, it was funny. Jennifer Lawless was saying, we were talking about that potential for the dark horse.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's kind of hard for a dark horse when the list is like 20 deep of who's a pretender and who's a contender.
That's right.
So she's like, I'm pretty sure it might come out of that list. But again, it's...
Well, these names that, 95% of the American population doesn't know the names of most of these people on the list. Unless they're actually from the state or the city where the person's coming from. I mean, Hickenlooper. Who in New England knows about John Hickenlooper?
You think it's going to work to his disadvantage, but with such a recognizable name, no upside to that?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's interesting point.
Maybe who is Hickenlooper?
You don't forget it. You've heard it a couple of times. He's apparently a very nice man. I don't know if he's got that kind of charisma, but very successful governor, purple state. Who knows? But not Elizabeth Warren. I think that's unlikely. I think she just comes across as too strident.
Let's go local a little bit here. Obviously, last week we missed you.
Yeah,
We did do the poll results with John Dell.
I was only in prison for a week. So
Posted bail. He's out here. But let's talk a little bit,
Yeah.
being in Providence, about the Providence mayoral election. Started to see some ads hit from Dede Whitman.
Right.
What's your thought? It's what?
Well, I
3
think
weeks?
I think it's
Two from
remote,
Tuesday?
but I think she actually could win. She's pretty relentless. She's got piles of money. She's got $500,000, I think, she could put into this
Yes.
thing. She's quite articulate. I don't know her. I may have shaken her hand. I've seen her on the Bozo Box and on radio. I mean, she's quite articulate, and I think maybe a bit more articulate than the mayor.
Well, we shall
And she comes
see.
across as sort of a strong personality.
There's a lot.
People like in a mayor.
She's, been in the political circles
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. I don't like that she was a supporter of Buddy. Buddy's the answer. And she kind of semi-apologized for that. Did you see that?
I think she's probably worked for about 20 people.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
she's
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
she's a fundraiser. She's
Yeah,
a
she's
bungler.
an operator.
She knows politics. The question is, in light of not having any polling info, citywide, she did pick up the endorsements of Bob DeRobio. She did pick up
And the cops.
the cops and Kobe
Cops, yeah.
Dennis.
Right.
The question is, you see a lot of ads, and around, but I guess, is she making inroads around the entire city?
I don't know. I mean, you see a lot of signs over at the what we call the affluent East Side. I haven't seen many signs elsewhere. I know she is getting around there, and getting back to Buddy, she did have a pretty good comeback, and she basically said, "Well, nobody's perfect," So
Nobody is
and
certainly perfect.
Buddy still has. There's still many living people who still think Buddy was a great mayor. I think it was a disaster, but she's clearly intelligent, and she does evoke a sort of sense of command, which I think people like.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
It's coming.
yeah.
It is down to the wire.
Yeah.
And then, we did see the numbers from John Delavolpe with Raimondo at 40, having
Yeah,
Alan
yeah.
Fung at 32,
I
and
think she will win.
Joe Trillo at 17.
Yeah, I think she will win. The Trillo is just very entertaining. We're so happy that he won. And then the further implosion of the Rhode Island Republican Party with Patricia Morgan endorsing Trillo. I mean, it's just,
Never a dull
it's
moment.
delightful.
So local politics, national politics, what can we expect from you?
Well, a couple of things. One, I kind of ruminate on the closing of St. Anne's Church in Fall River. St. Anne's Church is one of those sort of ethnically, obviously religiously based, but ethnically based parishes, in that case French Canadian. In fact, the architect of it was a French Canadian, but those people have dispersed to the suburbs. Many of the devout or formerly devout have died, moved away, and it's a sort of a symbol of what's happening with the decline of the local parish church everywhere.
Oh, it's interesting too, because you do see it, but then now we're seeing the Catholic Church in the crosshairs on the very national level.
Right.
Just seeing the Department of Justice in Pennsylvania investigating there. And then John Delavolpe's poll, 87% of Rhode Islanders, I believe, was the number, would like to see one here. Do you think it will
You mean an investigation here?
investigation?
Yeah. I think it could happen. But sort of getting back to that, I think that the sex abuse thing has certainly hurt them a lot, but I think a lot of it's just the move to the suburbs. These people, different ethnic groups, Italians, originally Irish, French Canadians, and so on, they move to the cities and they become more affluent and they move out. And the urban parish, even one is such a beautiful church at St. Anne. It's really almost a symbol of the city, even with that.
Okay, so
that's
looking
sad.
at
And I look
that.
at the mayor too. I look at the mayor, the 26-year-old mayor, and I suggest again there should be a minimum age at which somebody becomes mayor that's too young, too inexperienced. Clearly, he's very materialistic, very confident. I've heard him speak, very, very confident guy and all that. But whether he's a crook, we'll see. He's accused of defrauding investors, but too young, just too young.
What would the minimum age be? So
30.
30?
30. Yeah.
Okay.
And
the demise of the church,
yeah.
looking for minimum age for mayors. What else can we expect this
The other
weekend?
thing, it kind of in commenting on the whole Fall River thing, I talk about why it's interesting that New Bedford has had a bunch of good mayors. John Mitchell, John Bullard back in the 90s, people visionary, competent. And New Bedford's kind of a happening place now. Fall River has never really put it together. Even though they're always lumped together, 14 miles apart, old mill towns, very different. Anyway, what else? Here we go. Shall I talk about something else?
Give us one last little teaser for this weekend.
Deepwater, being bought by the Norwegian company. They claim they're going to have their headquarters here and in Boston. My prediction is they will close the one here and everything will be in Boston.
We shall see. It's always interesting when you have your predictions to see what pans out. But you'll have to read the column this weekend that Bob Whitcomb has on GoLocal on Sundays, as he does every week. Bob, thank you so much for coming in. I'll let you go off to the races. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center.